All right, guys, we're back at it. I'm gonna pour a handful of these lead jigs today before I start powder coating. I've got some new hooks coming in because we're running a little low, but we can get through today and get some more stuff powder coated while we're waiting on that delivery tomorrow. Well, if I can figure out how to get it into these hooks. I've just about got what I need made up for this next run, but never hurts to make up some extra. And today, what I didn't have yesterday is my clamp. So, definitely going to be using the clamp today to help hold this mold shut a little bit better. But again, we're making the Bo Peep jig. These are what they call a sweeper jig, but I am primarily wanting to use these for chasing after going after sheephead for fishing. So that's why I named them the Bo Peep jig. So once this lead gets heated up and the mold gets hot, we'll get started pouring that. Nice shot of my. All right, not quite there yet. This is just some of the buildup of the not quite pure lead, and I just scraped that off the top. A little bit longer and we'll be ready to start pouring. Matter of fact, I might run my hook in there to clean it up a little bit. There we go. So you can see there the 4 cavities are filled. We're not doing the 2 smaller cavities again today. And I had mentioned in the YouTube video that I was live yesterday, this thing has got a little bit of a drip to it because some of this lead that I've been using isn't the purest stuff. So whenever it drips like that, I can take and just put that right back in the burner. And there's our jig head. And then I just take and I remove that spot, and it also goes back in the burner to be recycled into another jig head. Things really dripping a lot today. Don't really care for that too much. We have made some progress on the Southern Tide Chasers bass and panfish tournament that's coming up in May. It will be on May 3rd at Douglas Landing. If you're watching any of this and you're from around the Weewa, Hitchcock, or Panama City area, that's where our bass and panfish tournament's going to be. We had a decent turnout last year, but I'm hoping we can do even better this year, make it a bigger tournament. So, again, there's our lead in the molds, in the mold, not the molds. And then what I keep reaching for back here is this is our different colors. We've got our chartreuse green, chartreuse yellow, and the blaze orange. And like I said, we'll be going through the process of powder coating some of these here in a little bit after I get a couple of packs of these made up. And what I do is I put 4 jig heads in every pack, and we have 2 stores right now that are selling our jig heads, but I also have them available through the Southern Tide Chasers Facebook channel or Facebook page, as well as Southern Tide Chasers Gmail. If you contact us, we can figure out what the shipping might be to get you your very own Southern Tide Chasers Bo Peep jigs. And we've had a few captains out there that have stopped by Blue Water Outriggers and picked up some of their packs, and they've had some decent luck with them. Something I'm kind of proud of. I'm doing this with my brother, and he's the one that really got us started doing this. He mentioned that nobody really had the sweeper style jigs locally. So I decided, with having the YouTube channel and the following on TikTok, I would get us a mold, get us some hooks and some lead, and get started on making these things. And so far, it's been working out pretty well. Then what I do is, right there, you just take and cut that right off, and like I said, it goes right back in the pot. Come on. Helps if you actually make it in the pot when you're throwing these things. So this is, see if I can turn this. This is how they look inside the mold. And I preheat the mold for the first pour or two, and then after that, this mold stays pretty warm just from the putting the that molten lead down in there. So you only have to preheat the first one or two pours that you're doing. And what I do is I put a number 1 hook in the first 2 small slots. And then I put the 1/0 hook in the 2 bigger slots. Turn my heat up just a little bit. Can be a little finicky at times. Come on. Like I said, the lead that I got is not quite the purest stuff, clearly, because what I've done is I've got something jammed down in that little spout. It'll start pouring again here in just a second. Or we'll move on from pouring jig heads and we'll go to powder coating. Let me find my tool and I'll clean this out. Maybe. Aggravating. All right, we'll continue to let it heat up and see what happens. This is 100% user error, folks. This is not the tool's fault. Been having good luck with this lead. Of course, up until I try to do this. There we go. We got one of the big ones that ain't too bad, and one of the smaller ones. Correction, two of the smaller ones. So, not a total loss. Now we're back to pouring good again. So again, we let that sit there and dry up. A little bit of a mess, but as long as these are turning out good, that's all that really matters. And I've said before on these videos, I don't know that the clamp is 100% necessary, but I like to use it. Try to keep all the nasty stuff out of the pot so we don't clog the system up like I had just done.
And there's your jig head. Like I say, I make 4 sizes when I'm putting these together. This mold allows for 6 sizes, but I'm only doing the 4 sizes because that's what people asked for, so that's what we're making right now. The smaller sizes could be very useful for running in freshwater with any sort of a soft bait, because what this jig will do, if you've got your worm or whatever up here, as you pull the jig up, it's gonna automatically nose the sinker head back down, but keep your bait up off the bottom, which again, that's why we're pushing these things towards the sheephead and calling them the Bo Peep jig. All right, so that makes 8 sets of all the jigs. Which is a good start for today. That's probably where I'm gonna leave it at, and we'll start. We'll get things adjusted and start messing with the powder coat part of this. So, like I say, that was the initial part of actually making the jig head itself. Put our hooks up. Get our area policed up a little bit. I think you can see the oven there a little bit, and I had mentioned I've seen lots of different ways of doing the powder coat, and what I found was this little toaster oven is about the best way that I have found so far to do it. All I do on there is, let's see here if that can, place the jig heads in the oven. And go ahead and start letting those get up to temperature. And we're going to be doing the chartreuse yellow. Let me see here. Just check in some stuff here on my phone. And it takes probably about 5 minutes or so to get this lid up to temp. And once I do that, I can take, and you always want to fluff your powder up real good, so that way when you go to stick the jig head down in there, it sinks down in the powder freely, so you're not having to force it or anything like that. I got some powder on the actual burner yesterday, so that's burning off a little bit. No big deal. I've got my dog out running around in the back there. If you can hear her trying to destroy stuff. All right, so I'm gonna dip one of these in here, and you can see there's the powder on it. And I need to remember to shut this oven door every time in between doing this, because it really lets the temperature of the powder go down, which is not good for the actual powder coating process, because if the temperature falls, it will actually adhere to the jig head very well. There you go. And what this does is, once it heats back up, it actually melts this powder and it liquefies it basically. And once it cools down, you've got a nice shiny finish. I'll pull one of these out here in just a second that's already started to smooth out, and you can see how good that color looks on there. So there you go. That's it after it's melted and done its thing and smoothed out a good bit. I'm only doing the chartreuse yellow today because I think that's one of the more popular colors. Let me try to adjust this a little bit. There we go. And I'll leave these up there, just that little bit of heat. I mean, it's not enough to really burn you or anything, but that's gonna lead to it heating up a little bit faster when I go to do this next set. Now I just let those sit in there and bake for a few minutes, and then we'll pull them out. I've got a rack behind me that I put these things on to let them cool down and go ahead and dry up, and then they're ready to go. And again, that's the finish that you get out of that powder coat. After it's cooled down and been through the process. That mic right there. I think it worked good there yesterday. This is the kind of boring part. Now we're just sitting, just waiting. See the shine that's on that. All right. I've got my other um, camera going up there on a YouTube live at the same time. So really, what I should be doing while I'm taking these out, I should be putting fresh jig heads in so they can be heating up. But I drop one every time. But like I had mentioned before, I've seen
others doing these jig heads, and they'll do a heat gun or even a candle. I'm liking the fact that I can do several of them at the same time. Okay, I got those all cleaned up. So whenever I'm ready to start the next round after I get these powder coated, we can go straight to that. This should be sufficiently warmed up now. Again, always fluff up your powder coat a little bit. Like that. And a little added benefit, if you purchase any of these jig heads, you can actually say that you got to actually sit there and watch my goofy self pour them and powder coat them. At least one every time. I try to close up the powder in between using it because that stuff will soak up moisture that's in the air or anything like that. So you've got the smallest set of jig heads left to do and the in-between size there. And then that'll be it for today. I've got Mustad sending me out a couple hundred hooks here soon. And I'm waiting on some white powder to powder coat these jig heads in a white powder as well. All right. So that's after the powder has had a chance to come up to temperature and melt onto the lead. You cannot be afraid of getting burnt doing this. I can tell you that. I have done powder coating in a professional setting, and now doing it here at the house both ways, you end up getting burnt. And I know there's protective gear that you could wear and everything else, but that just lends itself to other problems. Turn turn the screen on here. Bear with me. I'm just waiting on these other jig heads to heat up right now. While I do that, all right. We've got these up to temperature now, I believe. Yeah, that looks good. So again, if you don't have them up to the proper temperature, the powder won't actually stick to the jig head. So go see what she's barking at. Hey. Neighbor's dog. Same dog she sees every single day, but and that's the process. You just pour your lead into the mold, pull it out, take your little pieces like I was showing earlier that I was cutting off, in the process of dipping them in the powder coat. All in all, pretty easy.